No. This ain't good. I think that's got damage in the box. We are on the flight, ready to go to LA for the first time ever in my existence.
Armstrong was the only person watching that Copart listing who genuinely believed resurrection was possible. Here is the first thing that surprised everyone who was paying close attention when Matt Armstrong acquired this car. The price. Because even in the condition it was in, even with every piece of damage, every destroyed panel, every deployed airbag, and every unknown electrical issue, a wrecked Lamborghini Urus commands serious money auction. These cars cost well over £200,000 new. And even in catastrophic condition, they hold enough residual value that buying one as a rebuild project requires a financial commitment that goes far beyond what most people would consider reasonable. Matt Armstrong made that commitment, and in doing so, he immediately raised the stakes of everything that followed. Because this was not a situation where if things went wrong, you cut your losses and walk away easily. This was a situation where the pressure to succeed was financial, personal, and very publicly visible from the moment the car arrived at the workshop. But here is what nobody knew when this project started. Here is the detail that changed everything about how this rebuild unfolded and what it ultimately became: the electronics. Because the Lamborghini Urus is not just a powerful car. It is an extraordinarily sophisticated piece of technology. The systems that control its performance, its safety features, its driving modes, its air suspension, its torque vectoring, its entire character as a vehicle, all of those systems are deeply integrated and deeply proprietary. And when a car like this suffers the kind of impact damage this Urus had absorbed, those systems do not simply go offline and wait to be switched back on. They record, they log, they remember, and accessing those logs, diagnosing what those systems are reporting, understanding what needs to be reset versus what needs to be replaced versus what might be permanently compromised. That requires tools and knowledge that most independent workshops simply do not have access to. Matt Armstrong knew this going in, and he attacked the problem with the same methodical, transparent, camera-ready determination that had made his Bugatti rebuild one of the most watched automotive series in YouTube history. The early stages of any rebuild Matt Armstrong undertakes follow a pattern that his audience has come to know well. Assessment first. Every inch of the car examined. Every piece of damage documented. Every system tested. Because you cannot fix what you have not properly understood. And with a car this complex, this expensive, and this publicly visible, the assessment phase was more critical than it had ever been on any previous project. Panels were removed. Subframes were inspected. Wiring looms were traced. And with every layer that came off, every new piece of information that emerged about the true extent of the damage, the scale of the challenge became clearer. This was going to be long. This was going to be expensive. This was going to test everything Matt Armstrong had learned across every rebuild that came before it. And every single moment of it was going to be on camera. Now, let's talk about the moment that genuinely stopped the workshop. The moment that Matt Armstrong himself described as one of the most sobering discoveries of his entire rebuilding career. Because beneath the visible damage, beneath the destroyed bodywork and the deployed airbags and the water ingress, the team found something that changed the entire trajectory of the project. Chassis damage. Not cosmetic. Not superficial. Structural chassis damage that went to core of what makes the Urus the car it is. And structural chassis damage on a vehicle built to modern safety standards is not something you simply weld and move on from. It requires assessment by people who understand exactly what those structural members are designed to do, what loads they carry, what forces they're engineered to absorb, and whether, after the kind of impact this car had experienced, those members can ever be trusted again to do the job they were built for. This was the moment where lesser projects end. This was the moment where the financial calculation tips past the point of return. Chassis repair at this level, on a vehicle this complex, with the liability implications that come with putting a structurally compromised car back on public roads, is the kind of challenge that separates the people who talk about rebuilding cars from the people who actually do it. And Matt Armstrong did not flinch. He documented everything. He brought in the right expertise. He was transparent with his audience about exactly how serious this discovery was and exactly what it would take to address it properly. No hiding, no minimizing, No pretending the problem was smaller than it was. Just the truth on camera, shared with millions of people who had chosen to trust him with their attention. That transparency, in that moment, under that pressure, is one of the most important things Matt Armstrong has ever done on his channel. Because here is what transparency does in a situation like this. It does not just protect the creator from accusations of misleading their audience. It educates. Every person watching Matt Armstrong work through the implications of structural chassis damage on a Lamborghini Urus learned something real about how modern cars are constructed, how crash damage propagates through a vehicle structure, and what responsible repair actually looks like. This was not entertainment pretending to be education. This was genuine knowledge transfer happening in real time, wrapped in the kind of dramatic narrative that keeps people watching until the very last second. That combination, real expertise delivered with real storytelling craft, is what separates Matt Armstrong from everyone else doing what he does. The sourcing challenges on this rebuild were unlike anything the workshop had faced before. Lamborghini panels are not cheap. Lamborghini-specific components are not widely available through independent suppliers. And while the shared VW Group platform meant that some mechanical components had crossover availability with other brands in the group, the brand-specific pieces, the things that make a Lamborghini look and feel and behave like a Lamborghini rather than a very expensive Audi, those were another story entirely. Every panel had to be tracked down. Every Lamborghini-specific component required creative sourcing from channels that took time to identify and verify. And through all of it, the clock was ticking. Because in Matt Armstrong's world, time is content, and content is the engine that drives everything else. But here is where this rebuild produced a moment that his audience will talk about for years. A moment so unexpected, so perfectly timed, so genuinely emotional that it transcended car content completely and became something closer to a story about human persistence and what it looks like when the right person refuses to give up on the right project. Because in the middle of all the sourcing challenges, all the technical complexity, all the financial pressure and public scrutiny, something arrived at the workshop that nobody had asked for. Support. Unexpected, unsolicited, genuine support from people within the automotive industry who had been watching. Suppliers who reached out. Specialists who offered expertise. People who had seen what Matt Armstrong was building, not just a car, but the community, the conversation, the cultural moment, and decided they wanted to be part of it. That support did not solve every problem, but it changed the energy in the workshop. And energy, anyone who has ever worked on a long, difficult project knows, is everything. The paint process on this rebuild deserves its own conversation. Because bringing a Lamborghini Urus back to visual perfection after the kind of damage this car had sustained is not simply a matter of spraying color over repaired panels. Lamborghini's paint processes, the depth of their finishes, the specific formulations they use to achieve the visual quality that justifies their price point, all of that has to be matched with absolute precision if the result is going to look right. And looking right on a Lamborghini is not optional. It is the entire point. A Lamborghini that looks almost right is not a Lamborghini. It is a reminder of everything that went wrong. Getting the paint right on this car required specialist involvement, multiple rounds of correction, and the kind of obsessive attention to detail that Matt Armstrong brings to every aspect of every project he touches. But when it came together, when the light hit those panels and the finish looked exactly as it should, the result was genuinely breathtaking. And then there was the interior. Because a Lamborghini Urus interior is not just a collection of seats and a dashboard. It is a statement. Alcantara and leather and carbon fiber and technology integrated in a way that creates an environment unlike any other SUV on the market. Replicating that environment after the airbag deployment and water damage that this car had suffered required sourcing, fitting, and finishing work that pushed the boundaries of what an independent workshop could achieve. And Matt Armstrong pushed those boundaries. Not because he had to prove anything to anyone, but because the car deserved it. Because every car he has ever worked on has deserved the best version of what he could give it. And that standard, that refusal to accept anything less than the best possible result, is a thread that runs through every single project in his career. The moment the Lamborghini Urus started for the first time after the rebuild was complete was one of those moments that Matt Armstrong's channel exists to create. The kind of moment where months of work, thousands of hours of effort hundreds of thousands of pounds of investment, and an almost limitless reserve of determination all converge into a single sound. An engine turning over. A car that was written off, that sat in a Copart yard with a salvage title, and a story that seemed to end there, suddenly alive again, breathing again, ready again. That moment never gets old. Not for Matt Armstrong. Not for the people in the workshop with him. And not for the millions of people watching from everywhere in the world who have followed every step of the journey to get there. And here's the truth about what this Lamborghini Urus rebuild added to the legacy of everything Matt Armstrong has built. It confirmed something that the Bugatti rebuild suggested, but that this project proved beyond any reasonable doubt. That Matt Armstrong is not a one-hit wonder, not a man who got lucky with one extraordinary project, and is now trying to recreate lightning in a bottle. He is a builder, in every sense of that word. He builds cars. He builds knowledge. He builds community. He builds trust. And he builds the next challenge before the current one is finished, because that is how his mind works, and that is what keeps everything he creates moving forward with the kind of momentum that very few creators in any medium ever achieve. So where does this leave us? At the end of another chapter in a story that shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. A wrecked Lamborghini Urus that nobody believed in except one man who has built his entire career on believing in things nobody else will. A rebuild that tested every skill, every contact, every financial resource, and every reserve of determination that Matt Armstrong possessed. And a result that sits in a workshop in Leicester, fully restored, fully running, fully alive, as proof that the write-off is never the end of the story. It is just the beginning of a better one. If this video gave you everything you came for and more, then do one thing right now before you do anything else. Hit that like button right now. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think Matt Armstrong should tackle next. A wrecked Ferrari? A destroyed McLaren? Something that makes even the Bugatti and the Urus look straightforward? We want your thoughts. And if you are not yet subscribed to Cars Facto, then you've been missing every chapter of the greatest automotive story being told on YouTube right now. Subscribe immediately. Turn on every notification, because the next video is coming, and it is going to be bigger than anything that came before it. This is Cars Facto, and we will see you in the next